Hello and welcome back. And have you been considering buying your first NAS or upgrading a NAS in 2026 and looked at the price of hard drives and SSDs? Hell, have you looked at the price of RAM recently, where 16 gig of SODIMM is going to set you back about 200 nicker? We're all making economies, and moving away from the cloud onto a NAS or upgrading an existing legacy system can be expensive, and we've got less and less money to actually spend on the thing that all of our storage media lives in. Now, this is why I want to talk about Terramaster today. I've got 3 reasons I want to talk about them. Number 1, they're sponsoring this video. This is a sponsored video, don't worry, we are going to be very balanced. You should hear some of the stuff we're going to say at the end about them. But secondly, they are running a big promo, and their brand generally is one of the most affordable turnkey NAS solutions in the market. You can also install TrueNAS, Unraid, Zimmer OS, whatever you want to do. But they're up to 30% off right now. So I thought now would be a very good time to talk about whether they are a viable option for your data. Because a decade ago, they were very much in the deepest, darkest shadow of the likes of Synology and QNAP. But fast forward to now, and with so many Chinese NAS brands coming out of the woodwork, with very underbaked NAS operating systems coming out the fold, or just reusing things like Finu OS and more, or I think Soyun as their NAS operating system base, Terramaster and TOS have had the fingers in every single pie of NAS for a huge amount of time. And they may not have 20 to 25 years under the belt like Synology and QNAP have, but they're sitting on, I think, about 14 to 15 years in the market right now. But it's easy enough for me to just wipe the screen in hyperbole. Let's go into the details. When we talk about a lot of Chinese NAS operating systems coming out of the woodwork right now, a lot of them come under the same heading, which is lovely base. Where are all the features? Where's the security settings? Where's my 2FA, my iSCSI? Where's my security scanner? All of those are available on TOS. Currently in TOS 6, you have got an iSCSI manager. You've got the ability to host VMs and Docker. You have a security scanner. You have regimented auto block and whitelisting and blacklisting and IP scanning. The works, you've got all of those security precautions already built in there. But it's more than that, because they bring into the fold things like that isolation mode that I talked about before, which is really rare across the fold. It's one thing to have your NAS have air gapping insofar as scheduled power on and off, or even NICs on and off, but they go an extra step further with that isolation mode, where at the click of one option, both from the mobile and the desktop, it allows you to completely sever any remote access from third-party PHP, sever any third-party applications, and sever any access immediately remotely, which, if you are concerned, if you're hearing the NAS, suddenly the drive's getting written to, and you're concerned about what's going on, yes, you can log into it, but at the very least, you can isolate the system that can't be reversed until a full system reboot. They're the only ones that have that. But there are going to be those of you that are currently deep in other NAS ecosystems that don't really want to engage with a NAS operating system from another vendor without knowing what's it got that you're missing out on, or at the very least, if you jump ship, what are you potentially going to miss out on? And remember, most retailers, you can be able to buy one of these and you've got your standard 30 or 60-day return, depending on where you buy from, Amazon Prime, etc. But I will say, they're one of the few brands that have got flexible RAID. You know that Synology SHR thing, Synology Hybrid RAID? They got their own. It's called T-RAID. It allows you to mix and match the drives, and it creates multiple RAID groups across multiple drives, allowing you to take advantage of larger drives in a single configuration. Not even frigging QNAP has that. These guys have got M.2 NVMEs inside for caching and for pools. You've got that flexibility there. Also, arguably, they've got the largest range of affordable 10 gig networking solutions compared to a lot of those bigger established turnkey NAS solutions. Now, what they have is kind of on par with a lot of the Chinese hardware vendors that we talked about in the channel prior, but it has to be said that their brand has a bevy of 10 gig solutions in both desktop and Rack NAS, and it's the desktops in particular that are of interest. You've got things like that nice middle ground between the desktop and the rack mount solutions in the T series, like this one, which has got dual 10 GBE and an i5 inside. You've even got i9 processor NASs in their lineup. You've even got things like the Max series in 4 and 6 bay, which again are tremendously affordable and are under that big promo that we talked about. And talking about performance, they've also got DAS systems. This is the D1 Pro. There's also the D1 Plus. The D1 Plus is a USB 4, 40 gigabits per second storage system. This is a Thunderbolt 5 and USB 4 V2 M.2 NVMe storage system. This allows you to add a Gen 5 SSD with an enormous, silent, but incredibly conductive heatsink to keep things cool. You've also got things like the hybrid D8, the D8 hybrid. That thing has got 4 hard drive bays and 4 M.2 bays via a USB connected external chassis there, and it can be used as an expansion. You're not limited by kind of streamlined expansion devices. They've got a whole range of them from there, and I just think these are details that people, unless they get to know the brand, will learn more about. Hell, they got flash solutions in the F series, the F4, the F8, and the F8 SSD Plus. The F8 SSD Plus, this has got 10 GBE, an 8-core i3, 16 gig of memory, and 8 M.2 NVMe slots. They are Gen 3 times 1 each because it is an Intel Alder Lake processor, but still nonetheless, that is a huge amount of throughput. And yes, SSDs are going to be mad expensive these days, but this is an affordable system. I'm looking at my notes and it's currently on offer at $730. And I know it's a bit tacky to talk about prices in that way, but $730 for an 8-bay 10 gig i3 desktop NAS? Are you S-ing me? And there's going to be those of you that are currently in the Synology ecosystem and looking at alternatives out there are going to look at Terramaster and go, well, they're never going to have active backup for business. They're never going to have Synology Drive. And I'm not going to lie to you, they don't have those two apps. But they have substantially improved their portfolio to have applications that are fast approaching them. Things like the business backup suite that they've got. And although I didn't see anything in my testing with it previously in TOS 6 that would equate to large-scale VM, remote VM, Hyper-V VMware to the same extent as Synology, I will say that a lot of the multi-site backup management is still pretty bloody good. And then you've got things like Terra Sync, which are comparable to Synology's Drive application and Hyper Backup. You got bells and whistles. I'm not going to say that the UX, the design, and the general range of apps and services is going to be comparable to a Synology or QNAP, but I am going to say they are drawing a lot closer than other players in the NAS market right now, and they arrive with hardware that is genuinely impressive to look at when you look at Synology and QNAP. And I haven't even mentioned it yet. TOS 7. Last year when I was in Shenzhen, I was visiting a few brands and I went to Terramaster's HQ and got an early beta, and then eventually you can try this out as well. There is a alpha, semi-alpha going into the world of beta version of TOS 7, which closes the doors even more into the Synology DSM and QNAP QTS experience there. It's still running on BTRFS. It's not running there on ZFS at the moment from what I could see, and I'm surprised they're not investigating that at all. But still nonetheless, the UX is improved, the responsiveness is improved, the applications and services have been consolidated better, there is a new VM integrated tool there. The user experience just felt a lot better. And you're going to get hold of that software regardless of which of the current or even slightly previous 2023, 24, 25, 26 generation Terramasters you go for, because all of them run at that nice base for you to opt towards. They all support TOS 7 and they're almost certainly going to, they all support TOS 6, they're almost certainly going to support TOS 7. But let's be realistic. I know Terramaster are sponsoring this video, but they're not perfect. We've got to talk about some of the elements where they're either not close enough to some of their larger brand contemporaries, or they're simply not there at all. For example, their surveillance platform. Their NASs arrive with a surveillance platform. You know, that's fairly common these days, but it doesn't feel as fluid or as expansive as the likes of Synology Surveillance Station or QNAP's QVR platform. It's still very good, I will say, but it will feel a little bit basic. The same goes with a lot of their Intel powered systems that have got HDMI output. There's still no HDMI application. So although you can output via HDMI, and there is slight bridging there between some of the VM or containerized tools, I will say I do wish they did more with these HDMI ports that they're choosing to adopt on these things all of the time. Now, they've got an AI photo appliance. but it's not as good as some of the options out there. It feels a little basic. It does a lot of the stuff, and they've actually integrated some of the newer model stuff on there, but it still has a ways to go. Same goes with the App Center, by the way. They've removed a lot of the third-party trash and bloatware that was there a few years ago, but there's still gaps. There isn't a comprehensive multimedia appliance that's comparable to something like Plex or Jellyfin or anything like that. You can install those. And there is a community App Center as well, but it has this weird download allowance thing. It's really confusing, and I kind of wish that wasn't there. But all of that has to go in context of a brand that is charging a much lower price point than their contemporaries at Synology and QNAP, but indeed other brands that are emerging right now. Because there are going to be some of you watching this going, well, they're a Chinese NAS brand. Of course they're going to be lower price. Of course it's going to be cheaper. Well, I counter that ever so slightly when I ask you just how many Chinese NAS brands have emerged in the last 3 years and what their feature set is, where the gaps are in their portfolio, which are being filled here. Terramaster ends up being this line between the larger, multi-decade established NAS brands and the young up-and-comers. Their price point is a fraction more than the up-and-comers, but the software suite is more expansive. Now, they are running that promo right now, as mentioned. Again, there's, I think some devices are like 10% off, some of them are up to 30% off. Again, they've sponsored this video, but frankly, Terramaster, I would have done it for free, because right now we're in a position where the NAS market is being separated in two quite substantially, where Synology is aiming higher and higher and abandoning this tier, and QNAP is trying to cover too many bases at once. And Terramaster is looking like an even more mature option than it has before. I'm not going to say they're perfect, no NAS brand is. But if you're looking at saving a bit of bunts on a NAS in 2026 and chuck that towards your hard drives and SSDs, there are a lot worse options in the market right now. We've reviewed lots of their products. They're all linked below. I recommend you check them out. If you want to support what we do here at the channel, there are links in the description that will allow you to get a hold of these devices cheaper. I think there's a promo code as well. I'll add that below, and there's links towards their website, so you'll be buying direct from them. And again, that means you don't have to put money in Amazon's pocket or anything like that. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.